Good evening. I call to order the Monday, November 14th, 2016 legislative session of Swarthmore Borough Council. I note that all council members are present, as is the mayor. I understand the mayor has a presentation of service awards that he would like to make at this time.
I do. Thank you, Dave. We are very blessed here in Swarthmore that we have a very active and community-oriented police force. And that extends all the way from the chief on down to all the sergeants and all the officers. And we have, today we're going to mark some anniversaries. So if Roger and Ed, could you come up? So this is Roger Hinckley and Ed Clyde. They've been with the borough for just over 20 years now. We're a little late getting to the anniversary, but not too bad. And you know, we obviously the police and some of their activities have been issues around the country. We don't really have that issue here. These guys kind of know, they know the town, they know the people, they've obviously been doing it for a long time. If you ever run into Roger on the street, I'm sure you get into a long conversation. And Ed, this may be the last time you come because Ed's talking about retiring, which is a big move for someone so young to get there. So we have these are not much, but there's just to know that we appreciate you guys and that we love what you do, and we're pleased that you guys are sort of the essence of community policing.
Roger.
Kind of what we all need to sort of to make community. It's nice to see so many guys here too. Thank you. I really recognize you. So we have one more. This is someone I think is well known to everybody. He's actually his 25th year in Swarthmore, and this is Sergeant Bill Thomas. Bill really is the epitome of community policing. All our kids know him from the DARE programs over the years that he's run. You know, whenever you see him on the street, he always has a big smile on his face and willing to talk about all things esoteric about Swarthmore. And he's a great collector of memorabilia and the like. And we're lucky to have him as one of our sergeants. Thank you very much.
Before you flee, I'll make a comment. Every month, the chief prepares a report based upon the reports of sergeants and officers of the activity and calls and responses made by the department during the month. And we see this every month. Some years past, I was surprised at how many people left iPads in their cars unlocked, which would appear on these reports. But what comes home to me, and I think other members of council, is the service that our officers render that go beyond policing, that make them almost social workers in our town in dealing with persons who find themselves in extreme situation because of injury, age, or circumstances of having someone, a child who lives outside the borough, be concerned that they can't get a parent or a grandparent on the phone, and the officer will go to the house and check to make sure that the person is in good condition, or if not, to take actions that would be appropriate in the circumstances. So the work that our officers do on a day-to-day basis is invisible to many of us, but I think we should all take comfort in the work they do on our behalf on a day-to-day basis to make our borough not only a safe place to live, but a place where they are looking out for us in various ways that we don't know they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and we appreciate it. At this point, I noticed a former mayor of the town and a former president of Borough Council, Ed Jones, was with us tonight, and we welcome you, Ed, and happy to see you here. At this point, we recognize the public for public comment on any subject of interest to the borough. If you wish to talk with us, come up to the rostrum, state your name and your street address, and we would be happy to hear what you have to say.
Hello, my name is Samina Iqbal. I live at 507 Riverview Road. It will be very important to this discussion. I would like to bring to your attention a rather unfortunate situation that is occurring that affects Riverview Road residents. The handout that is going around now has the statement that I'm going to now read. To obtain a zoning agreement to allow for the commercial development of Springfield Square South, National Realty Corporation entered into an agreement with Swarthmore Borough on April 9, 1985. For over 30 years, since the beginning of the agreement until the present day, NRC has violated the terms of the agreement. The violations of this agreement have harmed the quality of life and reduced property values for affected residents of Riverview Road. Just to orient everyone, the Springfield Square South is where the Olive Garden is, and FedEx, and so on and so forth. So it's right beyond the Swarthmore boundary. On the first page, I've highlighted several of the clauses from that agreement from 1985 that have been violated. And the one that I will speak to tonight myself is the one that I'm most intimately familiar with, which is our own property at 507 Riverview Road. However, I want to stress that we have several neighbors here who have also been affected. So this is not one person's or one property's issue. It is an issue for many, many residents. The second page that I have is just highlighting that Swarthmore Borough granted the zoning variance and stated that the character and use of the adjacent residential properties should not be impaired. The character, use, so on and so forth. At 507 Riverview Road, you'll see on the third page that what was filed in 1984 was a clear 60-foot buffer, and that is supposed to be a planted buffer that is supposed to serve as a separation between the residential and commercial uses of Springfield South. You'll see in red, and you'll just keep on seeing this through the next 6 pages, what is actually built. So underneath you'll see that all paving in the initial 1984 plan that is at the borough office, the paving was outside of the 60-foot buffer. There was no paving shown in the 60-foot buffer. On the next page you'll see that there was a different plan that was actually built and was not filed with the borough office. that paving is within the 60-foot buffer. And you'll see at the turnaround there that that turnaround borders exactly adjacent to the property boundary at 507 Riverview Road. The next page is just an aerial view taken from the earliest Google Earth photo that's available, showing that in fact is what was built, was the paving within the 60-foot buffer. The next page, you'll see that in 2008, there was a large expansion of the parking. A lot of plans were done at that time. There were a lot of residents that were affected because of retention ponds being removed, so on and so forth. The plan that is at the borough office is a plan, a landscape, layout, lighting, and landscape plan, which leaves off the area that is paved within the 60-foot buffer. So the drawing just does not extend to include this paving. However, what you'll see in the next page is that the paving was in fact increased, and there were formal parking spaces put in, and those parking spaces are now being used for utility vehicles that service NRC South. There have been trash cans there have been salt piles there have been, and there continues to be industrial activities, welding that burns our plants, CMU block, sewer pipe, additional fencing, whatever. There's often garbage there. So some of this was removed after a meeting last year, after which my husband and I engaged and spent a considerable amount of time and money, and a meeting happened, and some of the things were remedied, like the most egregious ones, the trash dumpsters were moved. However, much of this still exists. The industrial materials are still there, the activities are still there, and we are affected. Next two pages are just, again, an aerial view of the expanded parking within the 60-foot buffer. And in fact, in 2008, Springfield Township's engineering review that was then given to the township manager noted in this last paragraph that I've highlighted that the developer shall not develop and shall maintain a buffer zone no less than 60 feet within the western boundary. And the turnaround area for the office encroaches within the 60-foot buffer and does not appear to comply with the reference site plan. This condition should be corrected or provide documentation granting the turnaround location. So Springfield Township, which is granting, the development of these plans, noted that in their review. As I mentioned, there's been some activity, and we wrote to Jane Billings, the borough manager, and that resulted in Mr. Bob Scott writing a letter to Claude Caton stating our concerns, essentially with the view that I have just stated. And the only reply to that was that there was some sort of agreement with the previous owners of Riverview Road. That email that we received was dated February of last year, and no agreement has been produced. Just to note, we have also contacted the previous owners of the property, and they say that there has been no agreement. So that concludes my comments about our particular property. But in summary, this agreement was put into place to protect the residents along this boundary, and it has been violated, and we are asking that the agreement be enforced. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this or any other subject this evening? Thank you.
So, my name is John Kofi. I live at 451 Riverview, one house down from Samina and Tony.
Down in the sense of away from
south.
Baltimore Pike?
South.
That's right.
So I guess starting from our property and going north, we too have been impacted in every way imaginable since we moved there in '89. And it has been problematic because there hasn't, our understanding when we moved there and we obtained the original agreement, it sounded like everything was copacetic and enforced and done properly, and we go through the usual channels and nothing happens, and 20 years go by. The encroachment continues to get worse, not better, and it falls on very deaf ears from the Swarthmore Borough, from my perspective. The agreement is not supposed to be between the individual property owners. The agreement is between Swarthmore and NRC. And we rely on Swarthmore to do its due diligence, whatever that means, which is enforcement, I guess. There's some particular things that have always stood in the way. There's supposed to be a 10-foot setback. When the land was surveyed by us, and again by Mr. DiPatone and crew, I guess he's the primary person there, the surveying markers clearly demonstrate that his fence is on the property line, not set back 10 feet like it should be. The 60-foot barrier is silly. It just doesn't exist. We had to pay out of our own pocket in the 2007-2008, what I call fiasco, to come up with landscaping. We had to hire our own architect and say this is a reasonable plan that these individual property owners agreed to. Again, that seems to be kind of wrong. But again, the plans were marginal, 50% of what was asked for and agreed upon. Many of them have died. I live in Swarthmore, which means by definition I'm a tree hugger, I think. And trees are being cut down. The last we'll hear a little bit more about. That around this buffer, they're supposed to provide a sound barrier, a light barrier, a distance barrier, and they don't exist. And they're being cut down, and it's sad. So that's about what I have to say.
Thank you.
David, can I ask a question?
Sure, Bill.
Hi, Mr. Covey.
Yes.
This is a relatively new thing to me, so I just wanted to learn more about it. If that's okay. So it was, I think you said 1989 is when you moved there?
I think 89 is when we moved.
Okay. So, and you haven't get any response from the borough, you said. So is this something that has been coming up regularly for all
It
these?
is. I'm not the primary point person here. That would be my wife, but she has inquired into borough offices. I guess mostly through, directed our attention towards our borough, I guess our borough
Manager.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm trying to get an idea how frequently you've been in touch with the borough about
I think on a regular basis, every other year or every 2 or 3 years.
it. Okay. And what was the answer you were given in the past?
I guess the answer is that we will look into it, and we will look into it. There have been several times when I have felt that the borough did not know exactly what they had agreed to. So I think we have provided documentation at least once, if not several times, of the existing agreements, and a gentle reminder that this agreement is really not between the individual landowners, but we believe it's between the borough and NRC.
And what has kind of sparked this recent rally?
I guess the what has sparked this last rally, I think, is that there was some tree cutting at the northern part of the street. And so to say, everybody gets up in arms saying, what are you doing here? I wasn't there for that, but it was pointed out. I think the police were notified. And again, it was sort of, well, he's entitled sort of perhaps to do that. And we sort of I believe that that's not exactly the case.
The trees in question that he recently removed were clarified to us by the police of both boroughs and the zoning enforcement officer of Springfield Township, that those particular trees were outside of the 60-foot buffer. However, there are no trees behind it in the 60-foot buffer. So now, for the second property south of Baltimore Pike, there's just a clear sight line into the parking lot.
So this is where you enter into.
But, excuse me, that's the house that Mr. Dupont himself owns, right?
The second house down, he does own as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, so just for my clarification, this is, if you're on Baltimore Pike, there's the empty house, right?
Correct.
And then the next house
Is
which is very visible when you drive in or whatever. Okay, that's the one where the trees were cut down.
Yes.
And then you are towards the end of the.
Our two properties are at the intersection of Brockton.
Okay. Okay, thank you, that helps me.
Good evening, I'm Sean O'Donnell. I live at 527 Riverview. I'm the property to the north of Tony and Samita. And I just want to briefly chime in that the activities at this property, we've only lived there since 2011, so a lot of these changes happened before we moved in. But it's been very disruptive having this property behind us. We feel that the abrogation of the agreement has negatively impacted our quality of life very severely, and also we're very concerned that it has a negative impact on our property value. We suffer mainly at our property in particular. The berm that was supposed to be put in place, it does extend to the end of our property, although it ends before it's supposed to. It's supposed to extend further down past Tony and Samita's property. So all of the disruptions, the noise pollution and the light pollution in particular, real problems at our place, made worse in part by the encroachment right up to the edge of Tony and Samita's property. So even though the encroachment doesn't actually reach our property, it's immediately adjacent to it. So it has a very negative impact. I guess my sense of this is, this is something that is impacting a lot of residents, and in a sense, we're the vanguard of Swarthmore. We're the border zone of Swarthmore. And we've been put in a very awkward and difficult position as Swarthmore residents having this commercial development right behind our properties. The mitigating steps that should have been taken that were agreed to, we believe very strongly should be adhered to, because we believe that moving back towards the terms of the agreement would improve conditions. You're not going to make a big development like that go away. It's there to stay, but we believe that making these changes would improve our situation. And I think that allowing this kind of encroachment and erosion to creep in at the edges of the borough bode very poorly for the future of the borough. It's just not something that we should be allowing to happen. So.
Thank you. Anyone else on that or any other subject? Now, go ahead, Edmund.
My name is Edmund Jones. I've lived in Swarthmore since 1930. Now we're talking about that period of time. I want to say, first of all, that anything to do with Springfield Township is tough. When I was mayor of this town, they built the Springfield Mall. I went to the Republican leader of Springfield. I said, you're getting a big income from the taxation of that new facility. Why don't you deed or turn over to the borough of Swarthmore everything from Fairview Road on down to the bridge? You'll all pardon my French, they told me to go to hell. That's not really why I came here this evening.
But thank you for sharing that historical
I wish all of you
observation.
good luck and success in anything you have to do with the township of Springfield. I never was successful. My real purpose in coming here this evening is I have known Ed Klein since he was a little boy. His family lived here in town, and I've watched Ed Klein, dealt with him after he became a police officer and during the time that he served this borough. And I just want to say that I think he's as fine a police officer as you will ever have in the borough of Swarthmore. That goes without exception. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Sandra Ferlini. I live at 539 Riverview Road, and I'm the third property in the Baltimore Pike. And we're about to celebrate our 16th year living in Swarthmore. And when we first looked at our property, we really didn't know any of the issues until we were about to put in an offer. And then we were sort of told that, this big developer owned the two properties. And it came up once with the zoning board, and we were assured nothing would happen. But just in the last month, the destruction of the trees in the backyard, and I understand that on his property he can do what he wants, but the buffer is very bare. So I have a 6-foot, I guess it's called a stockade privacy fence around my yard. And in the springtime, we put in 10 green giant arborvitae, and I just called them as soon as they started tearing down all the other trees, and I had about 6 more put in. But it's going to be a while before they grow and give me some privacy. So our kitchen and our family room are on the back of the house, and we just have this unobstructed view of the, I guess it says Springfield South neon sign, and the Baltimore Pike is just so much more visible now. So when we used to have people into our backyard, they would say, oh, it's like a private oasis back here, because I guess luckily behind our property we do have, I wouldn't know how many feet tall, but a decent sized berm, and there are mature trees on it, and in the winter you can see the lights poke through from the shopping center, but now it is just horrible. So I'm worried about my property value. We have no privacy. The traffic noise is really loud, and I'm just hoping that the borough can reinforce this buffer. And my spouse did speak with, I guess, the property manager next door, and the idea is to renovate the property inside and out. So we're very hopeful that this is what's going to happen. But they took down their fence that was on the side also. So again, I'm a little bit nervous about what the future holds for the property. So that's why I'm here also, and I hope that the borough can reinforce that buffer zone. And I've sort of heard rumored about the berm steadily shaved down behind the property next to me. So I'm at 539, and the rental property is 541. So I guess if somebody could measure how high that's supposed to be, I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this or any other subject? Thank you all for coming.
Good evening, Council. Rick Lee, President of the Fire Company. Just want to let everybody know, even though Nelson's Barbecue went out of business at the end of last year, we have found a new vendor, and we will be at the Farmers Market this weekend with a fundraiser of barbecue. Hog's Head Barbecue, I believe, is the name of it. So we encourage all residents to stop by the Fire Company's booth and purchase a brisket sandwich or a pulled pork sandwich, and the fundraiser will benefit the fire company. Also, as it starts to get cold out and you see more and more lights going up on people's wood yards, we will be selling Christmas trees this year again, as a tradition in Swarthmore. We'll be starting Saturday, December 3rd, and be selling every weekend, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, as we have for the past couple of years. So just letting you all know that it will be occurring again outside the on Park Avenue, where we typically do it every year, and we look forward to seeing all of you there. Thank you.
You be doing that jointly with the...
We'll be doing that jointly with Morgan Rutledge Fire Company as always.
So, thank you. Anybody else tonight? Yes? Thank you.
Sorry to bring us back to more serious matters because we will definitely buy one of those Christmas trees. I live at 427 Riverview Road, which is pretty far from the people you've heard tonight, and I'm here to speak not for those specific problems, but for Swarthmore. I moved here in the mid-80s, 1980s, and at that time there was a beautiful little house up there on Baltimore Pike. It had beautiful decorative brickwork. There was a garage with an apartment over it. It was a very attractive place, okay? Somebody bought that, and I'm having trouble with this name, but it's Deepaton, is that right?
Yes.
And he has very systematically turned that into an eyesore. He purchased the property next to it and rents it. Make no mistake what he is about. As he makes that property unattractive, as he's now doing, that makes the third property unattractive. This is not an issue just for the near residents. This is an issue for Swarthmore. And there has been legal action taken that says that he should not be doing these things. And it is incumbent upon Swarthmore to protect Swarthmore and deal with these issues as they come up. You cannot ignore them. If you ignore them, you're ignoring Swarthmore.
Thank you.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
Sarah Rehberg.
Okay.
Rehberg.
Anyone else? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Anthony Danger, I'm Sabrina's husband. So I'm also at 507 Riverview Road. We really appreciate the council hearing from all of us on this. The last thing that I really want to emphasize, because we're relative newcomers, we bought in 2012. I was the one who went out in my wheelchair to protest, and we are taking down a couple of weeks ago the beautiful 60-foot evergreen trees behind Sammy's property. He will, I'm sure, he will take a meeting. He will plant more. After a year or two, he will get more trees planted. In 5 years, those trees will probably be dead. But in any case, they're never going to get to 60 feet. What we call the haunted house, 535 Riverview Road, which is at the end, which Sarah is a beautiful residential home, and is now waiting it's just rotting at the end of Riverview Road. We believe he's now doing, I should say, NRC is now doing to the property adjacent to it, has now stripped that of any kind of residential value whatsoever. And the reason is because those properties are worth more dead than alive to this developer that owns them. They are blocking the view of his mall. That's very valuable retail, commercial view he has there. So if there were residential property there or at the property next to it, it's just decreasing the value of his mall. So I understand why those properties are worth more dead than alive to him. But it really affects the life of residents on Riverview Road. So the last thing that I want to draw attention to is in the handout that Selena gave, Clause 19 of that agreement says that it is agreed that the township and the borough shall have no liability or responsibility of any kind in connection with any part, with the performance of any part of the work or any damage or loss of any kind arising therefrom, and the developer agrees to indemnify and hold the township and borough harmless for any cost whatsoever, including but not limited to litigation arising out of the purpose of this entire agreement. So there were some great protections negotiated by your predecessors in getting this agreement made, and they just need to be enforced. And we really appreciate your time listening on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
My name is Rich Shumko, 445 Riverview, what else? And I'm speaking in support of my neighbors. And since the house on the corner was brought up, I wanted to mention what the condition of the house. There are some broken windows and several gutters down. There was some repair of the roof, but with the gutters and broken windows, I'm concerned about the long-term longevity of the house.
Okay.
Again, that's Rich Shumko, 445.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
I'm Bill Menke. I've lived at 6 Ogden Avenue since the late 80s, and 10 years before that I've lived on Ogden Road, Ogden Avenue. I have a real problem with one of my neighbors, and I know that one of you or more probably think that I'm talking about my next door neighbor who's abandoned her house. But no, I'm talking about Claude DeBaton, his children, and national developers who have taken 3 properties along Riverview Road and ruined them. One of them at the corner, as you just heard, is no longer a residential property. It has got a couple placards on it which have directions to rent property or lease property from national developers. On a residential property, this is. Next door, as you've heard, they have taken down all the trees in the backyard to open the view into their development. This is horrible. How can this be allowed? And the third property next door is barely rentable. Now, I love living in this town. I don't mind paying the school taxes, even though I don't have children in the school, because we have wonderful schools. And I love living in this town because we do not have commercial. But here we have some neighbors of ours who have taken this case all the way to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, lost, and they have thrown it in your face. I'm asking you because I know that some of you are doing this pro bono, some of you are getting paid a pretty good hourly rate, and some of you have a pretty good salary with really good benefits. I'm asking you to do your jobs and go after DeBaton and national developers for the horrible things that they're doing to this town.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you all for coming. Moving in the agenda to the President's portion. There have been distributed minutes of our meeting of October 10 and November 7. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as distributed? Second? Any discussion about the minutes, corrections, all those in favor of approval of the minutes as distributed, say aye. Aye. Opposed? They're approved. I would note, just to remind ourselves, that our public hearing, our hearing on the application for a fair housing accommodation that will resume next Monday in this room at 7:30 in the evening for most of us. The Environment Committee, Lauren?
No report.
Will you be meeting this month?
No.
Finance Committee, Michael?
Yes, a few things, starting with the financial report. for October. Not a lot has changed over the past month. The borough's in pretty good shape for year to date. Already over 100% of what we budgeted for revenues so far. Really driven by the same things that I've been talking about, which are building permits and transfer taxes being higher than expected for the reasons I think everybody knows. I think on the expenditure side, things are tracking as expected. Again, I'll credit to Jane and monitoring those costs as we go through. The cash balance at the end of the month was $1,252,423, and still targeting for year end roughly between $550,000 and $600,000 as a fund balance. And we'll discuss that a little bit as it relates to the budget a little bit later. If there's no questions on the financial report, I'd like to move on. Are there any questions?
I did have one question, Michael. Is the amount we are over in revenue probably where we'll finish the year at this point? Or is there more of unexpected permitting? I mean, obviously, we're going to take in more revenue overall, but is there more? We're going to finish the year like 200,000 over budget. It's a big number right now, I thought. So.
I mean, I think
we had,
swag.
we had anticipated the year-end budget would be the year-end fund balance. I don't have that paperwork in front of me.
I do.
Maybe what was this supposed to be, 500,000?
As of 10/31, we're at 4.9. We thought it would be 4.847 versus 4.93.
He's talking about just the top line revenue.
Yeah, no. What I meant was,
The budget?
like in this year's budget, we had our book. We're saying that the year end would be around 455. I think it was about the same.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, we're probably going to be 150 or 200,000.
That was kind of the spot.
Yeah.
That's what I was just.
Yes.
That was it.
No,
Thank you.
that's what we've been. That's what Mike's going to talk about. Yeah.
Okay, so no further questions. We'll move on to the bills to pay and wire transactions for the month. Start with the wire transactions. Just want to highlight a couple at the end, which are $47,000 and $45,000 if you don't have it in front of you. That's part of the debt repayment that we talked about before. That's using some of the proceeds for this year to pay off debts coming due in next year and the year after. So that's included in this number. So I'd like to make a motion to approve wire transactions totaling $94,810.33.
Second? Any discussion about any item? All those in favor of approving those wire transfers, say aye.
Can I just make a quick note on that? With council's approval of that, we will be sending to, under my signature, I didn't want to sign it to you or approved it, notification to make those prepayments for the next 2 years.
Okay, may I continue with the motion?
Yeah. I thought,
All those opposed?
I'm sorry.
The payment is approved.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to checks for the month. They totaled, hopefully everyone has had a chance to take a look at those. But I'd like to make a motion to approve checks totaling $233,342.03 for the month of October.
Second?
Second.
Mary seconds. Any questions about any item on that list? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving those items to be paid as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Payment is approved.
Okay, and then finally moving on to the budget. I think this was sent out to everybody and discussed in last week's meeting. What's been included in this new budget that hopefully everyone's got a chance to look at were all the recommendations by each of the committees in terms of funding for the various groups, as well as the, and included in that would be also the guard at on Yale Avenue. So all those numbers are included in this budget. And again, the targeted fund balance will be somewhere between, around $550,000. But again, that's subject to change over the next 2 months as revenues and expenses track or don't track. So, and we'll also, so that number is going to be somewhat fluid. But anyway, I'd like to stop now and just take any questions about the budget that we're proposing.
Well, why don't, just to tee it up, why don't you move, we approve it as a preliminary budget.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2017 preliminary budget that's in front of you.
Which is dated 11/14/2016?
Yes.
And it is version 3?
Correct.
Second. Mr. Murphy, any questions about this?
I have one question, and it's really not a question about the budget, but we just approved those 2 debt repayment things. So this is just educated me. On the spreadsheet of all the line items, on the last page, there's a note for sinking fund debt principal, debt repayment principal. So is that repayment principal that we already have in the budget and then what we just approved is on top of it?
So that's exactly right. So next month's statement, you'll see we're going to be way over on those, because those will be put in those categories.
Okay, that's my question.
And the final thing is, I don't know if we have to make a motion in this particular meeting about the tax, because we're not changing it, right? So we don't need to do anything.
That's next one.
Oh, that's next one.
Okay.
We got to finish.
Any other discussion about, we did that, you moved a second.
We had a second, Mr. Murphy.
Any other discussion about this preliminary budget we have before us? All those in favor of approval of this preliminary budget for its purpose, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? No. Chair votes aye, it's approved.
That's all I have. We will be meeting this month.
Okay.
Regular schedule.
Okay. General government?
We have nothing to report. We're going to keep our meeting on for this month. We don't really have anything on schedule, and we'll touch base before that, and we'll see whether we really want to have it. We're going to keep it on schedule.
I'm going to interrupt this comment about what we heard tonight about Riverview Road. 2 weeks ago,
I'll take the blame for that.
2 weeks ago, understanding there was this concern expressed by some of the residents and then concern about the trees coming off the back of the second from the Baltimore Pike site, I drove up there to look. Oddly enough, the main office of the company through which they operate is a house that in 1973 my wife and I considered buying because it was owned by the fellow who at the time was or had been the president of the American Institute of Architects, Roy Carroll. Fortunately, we decided not to buy it. But I'm aware, having been there, and I took some pictures for my own purpose, the depicted encroachment of the parking for that building into what was supposed to be a 60-foot buffer. And interestingly, just behind that house for reasons which are totally unknown to me, whereas there's a buffer that starts at Baltimore Pike, but behind that property, there has never been a buffer. And then on the other side of the property, it picks up again. And so why that was, and it's been that way a long time. While I was taking pictures, Mr. Dubalton's son came out and asked who I was and what I was doing and why I was there, and I identified myself as president of Swarthmore Borough Council, and he couldn't have been nicer, as you might imagine. And so we had a discussion about that, and I said that I understood that he had no permit for that parking, and he which has apparently been there a long time. And so my purpose was not a confrontation, but to get information as best I could. And so he told me he would provide some, and there was some reference to it about some understandings that had been reached over time with the prior owner of that property about plantings and the like, and the fullness of time such was forthcoming. And I think that it is fact that, for better or worse, various of those, the present or former owners of those properties were engaged in discussions with Mr. Dubalton, which is a result of which he did some things. And which might, in no sense, perhaps be fully complying with his obligations under the agreement, but so individual property owners have had their own dealings with him. That doesn't foreclose us from doing anything unless the passage of time has. And so I said, why did you cut down all the trees? And so we climbed in his car and we drove up behind the second house, which you heard about the trees having been cut down. And yes, there's an explanation there, and I was assured that Mr. Dupon's father had plans. They were going to replant, they were going to do stuff, they were making improvements to the house. Apparently they have to jack up the middle of the house so the roof doesn't collapse in. And there's a situation there that has existed for a long time in which we and Springfield Township, for its part, have been in contact with Mr. Dupon's the father, who obviously, and as this goes out into TV land, I say obviously is still in direct command of that operation. His son very much involved and couldn't have been more pleasant. But I think council with our solicitor is going to have to make some. We're going to need some advice as to what we at this point in time having passed, we can do. And it's then on that, based upon the advice we receive, it's up for council to decide what we should do in light of all of that, and in light of the circumstance. But I just wanted you to know that I, on my own behalf, not for you all, but for my own behalf, to understand the situation, have gone up there and had the discussions that I've reported to you.
Could I just suggest we should continue the conversation in executive session?
Yeah, I'm not suggesting tonight that we have any further conversation. I was just wanted to alert people to the
And
fact.
I think it would be a good idea to have an executive session after, if you're willing.
Oh, sure.
Because
Absolutely.
there's some more institutional background.
Okay.
In the council with that.
Sure, no, absolutely, and we'll do that. But then we got as far as general government, and so did we have your report?
There's nothing to report, and we have our next meeting scheduled, which is on for now.
Planning and zoning.
Nothing to report. We are not going to meet this month. I guess I am reporting after I said that. The Planning Commission is going to be meeting this Wednesday evening on the preliminary land development application for the college's new building. And that's it.
And they are hoping to come before council with their request for a conditional use approval at the December 5th meeting of council. So you'll see that advertised. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation, but the hearing is actually before Borough Council.
And the steel is rising.
No, not yet, not on this one. There's
I'll take
steel
it all up
rising.
on the hill.
I know, there's a lot of steel rising, but not in this project yet.
Okay.
And this one, if it rises, is going to be somewhere between 35 and 75 feet, which is the issue that's before you. That's only allowed for conditional use, which is granted by council.
Okay, anything else, Mayor?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Public safety?
Right, we'll be meeting tomorrow night, as you all know. I circulated an agenda and minutes from the last meeting. 3 things on the agenda: Yale traffic calming, a request from the Swarthmore Presbyterian Nursery Day School with respect to parking. And I think I don't have it on the agenda, but I think I'd like to revert to and maybe resolve the issue of parking for residents of the Ville overnight. And we've talked about it, but never came to a resolution.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
On our budget discussions, because the traffic calming,
Yes.
and then when we get to your committee, Dave, also, like, is that stuff in the budget? Does it need to be in the budget?
It's we have funds in the those would be capital expenditures, not operating expenditures, and so we have funds in the capital fund for that. Yeah.
I just approved one of the signs this evening. One of the electric signs on Yale was $1,800 or something.
And we are, the chief has, I think, directed the police department to do a follow-up study, and then probably another follow-up study to see what the speeds are like on Yale Avenue, testing in the same places that we did before the signs went up. Get an idea how effective they'll be.
Okay, thank you. Public Works, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, David. I missed our work session, so I don't know if there was any discussion around our meeting. We did have a meeting in October on the 27th. The major thing that rose up out of that was that the committee was in agreement on SRA's request, which rolls up under us, for $25,000. That was in the budget that Michael, we all just approved. But that was the major point. Jane is researching our electric charging station options, and it's not much like similar to the parking meters, where there's a wealth of new companies that do that type of thing, and all do them slightly differently, and it's interesting once you delve into a topic like that. But that was in the minutes, and then the street tree committee had a request which we didn't approve, but it was an interesting topic for sure to talk about our canopy. 3,000 some street trees we have in town. They're various ages, they're various species. The ash borer that is imminent, that could decimate the ash population. And it was an interesting meeting, I thought. So if there's any questions, we probably will not meet this month as we fall meeting on Thanksgiving. I probably won't get a big turnout.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mayor?
Thank you, David. Just want to report that the Premier Concrete came back out today, and after last week we received a check from the insurance company from the creative partner that we have. And the wall has been rebuilt. I think they're pretty much got that done. They will be coming back next week to install a new handrail, which will be on those two steps that go down next to where the curb. So that was actually an addition that we're adding to the parking, not part of this one.
Martin, we did not build the insurance company for that.
Yeah, we did not build the insurance company.
Just for the repair.
And then the only other thing I want to say is that the holidays are basically upon us. I mean, Thanksgiving is coming up, and Hope the Holidays is a big event that's going to occur in Central Park in the middle of town on the 3rd.
And Small Business Saturday?
Small Business Saturday is this Saturday?
This Saturday.
This Saturday, Small Business
No,
Saturday.
week from Saturday, 26th. There are some brochures.
The Saturday after
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
town centers put out some brochures.
And there may be some ukulele music involved.
Small guitars, small business.
That's a threat of our promise.
Little
I have a question. Are you finished?
Sure.
I have a question. In front of the co-op, there are a series of cones that seem to be where a pole is supposed to go up. Am I mistaken about that?
No,
Were there pins for a pole?
We lost we had a truck that hit a street pole almost 2 months ago, I think.
Oh.
Was that more than that? More than that.
Yes.
You may have remembered that when we did the Central Park project.
That's right.
That was not a part of that. It was a separate item. But we had to order those light poles 6 months in advance because nobody stocks things like that anymore, and they make them. And it's
Actually, it's a war story, if people want to hear. We actually, our insurance company ended up paying for that after our deductible. Not the truck that hit, because the truck hit a wire, and the insurance company, his insurance company wouldn't pay because they said the wire was too low. But anyway, we got paid for it. And the pole has arrived twice, damaged, beyond repair. So I actually have the emails if anyone's interested. So they are now making the first one they tried to repair, sent back. The second one came back so badly damaged that it was not salvageable.
This is a pole with a light at the top of it.
They come separately. The pole is manufactured
When
separately.
it's off, will it be
It's the
assembled?
pole.
Is it a light pole?
It's the pole that's arriving damaged. I haven't actually seen the damage.
No.
It's one of our 8 corners. It's one of our 8 corners.
Yes, it looks like it arrived actually at the distributor damage, so we never.
Okay. Right, but I just want to know what the
So
pole.
it's being replaced slowly.
Okay, fine, thank you. The cones are attractive, but that's all.
Not so much.
And just another note on that, just the Massey Burke, who is the earth artist who actually builds our walls, is in town, was inspecting the walls today, and she's quite happy with the way that they're aging and holding up.
Okay.
Which is good.
Borough manager.
Going back to David's report, and actually President Grove's prior tenure as both head of the Public Works Committee and on the Sewer Authority, the borough actually received its bill for sewage treatment at the Central Delaware County Authority, and our usage is actually down as part of the whole pie from the prior year, which means as we've repaired our lines, as we have constantly said, if we spend a little money repairing our lines, it will come back to us because we will not be sending as much water to be treated. So this is a year where we will certainly see that payoff, and we'll be discussing how that sort of plays out in the budget. But continuing to repair those lines means that you're not sending water into the system that has to be treated. So that's been a great use of dollars that you can see. On the electric car charging, I have actually had conversations with both Aurora Winslade, I think her name is? Winslade, from the college, who's their sustainability director, and Carl Eberbach, who many of you know is sort of Mr. Energy at the college, and they're both interested in I was trying to get a student interested in looking at the electric car charging, and because it's a great project, and what do you look at, what are the costs? So hopefully we'll get some input from them once this semester is done. Coming your way soon will be a draft of the ordinance, the tax and fee ordinance, as well as a bunch of resolutions that we pass at the end of the year, salaries for next year, our fees for next year, building permit fees and so on, setting pension contributions. I think all in all there's about 10 of them that I'll send out, and I usually send those before the work session that Friday before, just so you have time to look at them. If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Mr. Solicitor?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. At this point, we will go into executive session.